Thursday, June 16th. This is This Non-Religious Life. Today we talk about Governor Rick Perry's The Response, our The Rebuttal, and fake history.
Christian.
Jesus died on a cross. I go to church every Sunday. Jesus got out here. Then I read this. That Jesus died on a cross for a rotten hooker.
I thought the very lies the serpent told to Eve in the Garden of Eden. Garden of Eden. Garden of Eden. The gospel of Jesus Christ. Spread confusion and promote lies. The gospel of Jesus Christ. Spread confusion and promote lies. The gospel of Jesus Christ. Spread confusion and promote lies. The gospel of Jesus Christ. Spread confusion and promote.
Hey everyone, it's Thursday, June 16th. I'm your host, Ken. With me we have co-host Jason.
Hello.
And Bob.
Hey, how's it going?
And this is This Non-Religious Life. Today we are broadcasting from Path in Norfolk, Virginia. You can visit their site at pathnorfolk.com. Check out all the delicious food.
They have been so gracious as to host us.
Yes.
Yeah, they really
I'm
have.
going to eat Path right now.
So, if you've been following the past couple episodes, you've noticed that in Texas there's going to be what's called The Response. And we are trying to get down to Texas to issue what we're going to call The Rebuttal. So yeah, we're going to try and get down to Texas and just interview people on both sides, get as many interviews as possible, and we have a little video that we can jump into right now that promos the whole thing.
And it's a beauty, eh?
Oh, it's great.
Hey, dude, what are you doing?
I almost have it figured out. I think I have all the problems of our economy solved.
That looks really hard.
I think I have it now. I've been working night and day with this, and I think I have the answer. Maybe just a couple more hours, I'll have it all figured out.
You know what I heard is more effective than hard work?
What's that?
Praying to Jesus.
Hey, guys. Rick Perry is holding a prayer summit in Houston, Texas. We need to go to this. So yeah, Rick Perry, governor of Texas, is inviting all the other governors to Texas with him to pray to Jesus to solve the economic woes.
And this is at Reliant Stadium.
Reliant Stadium, 70,000 plus people.
I think it needs to be 70,000 plus 3.
Which I think is great. And I think one of the main reasons we need to go down there, we need to document this. We need to be there so we can talk to the people who are following in Jesus' footsteps that associate themselves with the organization that is hosting this, which is the American Family Association, which has been labeled a hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center because of their views on homosexuality. So I would like to go there and actually talk to both sides, the people that are going to be, because there are going to be massive protests there because of these views, and I would like to talk to both sides so we can get a round understanding, a firm understanding of what's going on and give our commentary to it.
How are we going to pay for that?
That's a good question. And I think our good friends at Indiegogo, which means you, will help us achieve this goal by giving us a donation.
And we've got great stuff to give you with the donation. So send us some money, and I mean, we can have, what, an internet party? Like
a
Skype
virtual party that you are invited to. Just check out the gifts on the side of this screen, and you could be a part of our private party. We also have a lot of other things. If you're a local member, you can get a free meal just for donating. Free food! And you helped us expose an issue that's really big in America right now.
Perfect. That's good.
So don't forget, go to Indiegogo.com/therebuttal and give a donation. We will be forever thankful for you. Please make this happen for us. Please help this non-religious life grow. Thank you. together we can prove that dinosaurs lived with humans. No, wait, wrong.
Dinosaurs with humans.
Yeah, I love that that exit. That was such a good little Easter egg in there.
Yeah.
That work of comedic genius took us I don't even
Comedic genius.
30 minutes to make. So yeah, you have the who, what, why, and where now. So, but you know what's great is last week we talked about how Sam Brownback said he's going to attend, the governor of Kansas, and Bobby Jindal, the governor of Louisiana, said he's going to try and make it. But as it turns out, just this past week, 2 governors have actually turned down Governor Perry, and they're Republicans on top of it all.
Which is really interesting because we talked about in that last episode that it puts them in a rock and a hard place. If they turn it down, they can be labeled as,
Yeah,
God
anti-Christian.
haters or whatever.
Exactly.
So this guy Nathan Deal, the governor of Georgia, do you think he's doing it because he's got a bad track record with this? Because of you should tell the Sonny Perdue story.
Oh yeah, a couple of years ago, Nathan Deal was the governor of Georgia, and he turned down going to the event. But the governor before him was Sonny Perdue, and he had a really bad track record with blurring the church-state lines. A couple of years back, he openly prayed for rain as the governor of Georgia on the steps of the Capitol, and he got a lot of flack for that.
Did it rain?
I don't remember if it rained or not.
I think that would be the important
funny
question
thing,
to ask.
Yeah, like, it's one of those things like, oh my God, it rained? Well, rain happens. You know?
Well, eventually it's going to
If
rain.
it rained snails or if it rained, frogs or if it rained blood, I would be genuinely impressed. But rain sort of happens. It's happened before humans arrived on the planet. It'll happen long after we're gone, with or without anyone praying for it.
If I'm going to be impressed, it needs to rain blood.
Yeah, no, yeah.
It's
like
not
the,
a Slayer
like
concert.
the Slayer song.
That's a different spelling.
Yeah.
So do you think with the history of Sonny Perdue, do you think that Nathan Deal is like, I am not touching that with a 10-foot pole? Or do you think he has a legitimate reason for not going? I mean, like, what do you think?
He might. I don't know. Like, this was all covered on the Southern Poverty Law Center's blog just a couple days ago. And it doesn't say why he turned it down. It could just be scheduling problems. It could be the fact that, his predecessor blurred the lines and he doesn't want to touch it. But he's not alone. Indiana Governor Mitch Daniels, another Republican, has also turned it down. Again, it doesn't say why.
Really?
Yeah.
So, I mean, let's, it's fun to speculate.
It's fun to speculate. I find it interesting that, like, it's 2 Republicans that have said no, which sort of it sort of demonstrates the fact that like not everyone politically in a single camp is so homogenous. But it's fun to watch. Oh, Jason saw something.
No.
Okay. I think it's gonna be interesting to see who does and doesn't show up as the date gets closer.
Yeah, I think it is a good point. I think it does sort of illustrate that it's easy to point the finger and say all the Republicans are the same way or all the Democrats are the same way, but we tend to forget that it's a spectrum of political ideology and just because Rick Perry is at this one extreme end doesn't mean that all the other guys are at that end as well. So,
No, exactly.
I think it's healthy to be reminded of that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see what our governor here in Virginia says, as well as the governor of my home state, Deval Patrick. See what he says about this. I mean, he's about as Democrat as they come, essentially. So.
I don't imagine any Democrats would go.
Well, you never know. It's one of those things like it's a mixed bag. I remember Jimmy Carter, president of the United States. He was a Democrat, but he was also he was very, very religious. He was maybe one of the most religious presidents we've had in the second half of the 20th century.
Anything more so than W?
Absolutely.
Because he really brought religion into the White House, I thought.
He brought it in sort of a show tune kind of way.
Yeah, but
though,
he didn't
you know?
Put everything in it.
But he didn't make any.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he was very savvy about it though, in that he publicly had displays of his faith, and he publicly said that he engaged in prayer, but he never led the nation in prayer as the president. Yeah. You know, like I think he was very savvy about how he kept his personal religion personal and his politics as politics. You know, I think he was very savvy in not crossing those lines, but it did bring religion into the White House in a, I don't know, kind of a slick way.
Well, we're at a turning point. You know, I made the reference, is this the beginning of the religious wars in previous episodes? And the more I read into it, I think when I say the religious wars, I don't mean in the traditional sense that everybody thinks about, where there's car bombings and, you know, just
The culture war.
Yeah, it is a total culture. And this is the rise. This is the Christian uprising. We've watched it grow over the years. It's been on small parts. And we've always, I guess, the people who sat back and watched it like I did, has always said in the back of our mind, well, they're not going to get very far because, you know, public officials won't endorse it publicly. But we've reached that point now where they've whittled down everything, and now it's becoming hand in hand with more government policies and public displays of it. And I think this is the first major hurdle that we've seen for the Christian uprising here in the States.
The Christian uprising.
Well, I mean that in the best
the
sense.
Christian apocalypse.
No, I mean that in the best sense, because that's what it is. I mean, they're trying to grab massive footholds into the way and mold the way the culture works.
Yeah, I just I see that happening too. I really do, and I see exactly where you're coming from. I just I just think that those groups have lost sight of the fact that we don't live in a Christian nation. We live in a nation with a constitution that protects us from the tyranny of the majority. And it's that same constitution that has allowed them to get where they are. You know, it's talk about burning a bridge behind you.
Well, this sort of thing, it's funny because I've been looking through more and more things recently, and do you know when Thomas Jefferson was running for president, what is essentially like the far right Christian groups were running attack ads against him, calling him a French infidel and an atheist. And it's so funny because when I think of, you know, the Christian right in this country, I think of, you know, the moral majority, you know, coming out starting in the 70s, and then you have, you know, the Satanic Panic
and Operation Rescue and all that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but
But
you know,
it goes back so far.
That's
It's
the
crazy.
Satanic Panic. That was all fabricated. Nobody ever actually did anything. That was all myths and folklore, and there wasn't a satanic cult running around. It was made up.
I know, and that's the greatest part about all of it. I mean, it's sad. It's sad. It's very sad that people actually spent time in prison during the Satanic Panic because of that. Some of them up to like 5 years, I think. But
you know, although
it's insane.
I guess you know, like, if you're gonna fight against something, why not fight against the boogeyman you make up? You know, like, it doesn't even have to be real. We're just gonna make up the bad guy, and it doesn't matter whether it's true or not. It's true as long as people believe it.
Well, I think their boogeyman is made up. They're just associating real people with him.
Yeah.
Well, we got anyway, sorry.
What was Jason gonna say?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
You know, the whole my whole problem with the response is that these people are spending their financial capital and their political capital on a non-event. I just don't see how it's going to help anything other than to, I don't know, maybe coalesce the group into a tighter
And I think that's worth the money they're spending. I think one, it's going to, because there's no such thing as bad press. They're going to get their message out there because there's going to be people like us. There's going to be NBC, ABC, CNN, all covering it. There's already, my mom, who lives in Texas and not too far from where this event's going to happen, says that there is already a firestorm brewing in Texas, that their people are, I mean, it's like a major topic already, and we're several months out.
Yeah, it's
she
a big
even
deal.
mentioned that she thinks there's going to be riots. I don't believe it's going to be that extreme, but she said when she went to the National Day of Prayer that Perry did before for the rain, she said it was pretty intense, and that was very small in comparison to what.
Yeah, no,
August
this is going to be
is gonna be.
gigantic. And
Yeah.
let me be very clear in the fact that if people want to, as private citizens, do this and organize this event for Christians, and it is in no way connected to the government, I have zero problem with it. People
Yeah.
can spend their time as they please, spend their money as they please, doing what they like, when they like to do it. My problem is the collusion of government with religion. And this is absolutely an establishment clause issue. It is absolutely a free access, like, what is that called? God, what was the law called? I'm drawing a blank on the 1980s law. Equal access law violation. Absolutely. Because it's exclusively Christian. It's exclusively religious.
Well, it is religious, and it does seem very Christian, but to be fair, when we registered, there wasn't a button or a checkbox that said, are you a Christian, yes or no?
Yeah.
And so that wasn't. But I'd be curious to see if you walked in dressed as in traditional Muslim, garb. Would they be like, hey, come on in?
Well, actually,
It's
no,
in
because the
law.
leader of the AFA, the person who's hosting this event, the AFA, the American Family Association, has made an announcement saying that in the Muslim countries, we need to send in the troops, then the missionaries, and if they don't convert, then lethal force should be
Missiles.
applied.
Yeah.
I'm
I'm just wondering how inclusive they're going to be. Like,
They're not.
I think I should wear a gay
They're-
pride shirt on the way in just to see
well,
what happens.
you won't get in because I'm sure security is going to be tight. And
But how? All right, well, let's test it. Let's find out. This is why I think it's important to go.
But I think it's important to go. But if we're going to test it, it shouldn't be one of us wearing it because we need to be there to hold up to our side of the deal that we're making with the people on Indiegogo. If we raise the money, we need to be
yeah, I
there.
see what you mean. We'll send in some.
But I have a lot of friends in Texas that if we want to test this, I'm sure they'll be down for it, and we can talk to them and work
That'd
that
be
out where it's
excellent.
not us. But nothing where anybody gets arrested, nothing like that. We just want to see if they can get in,
I mean,
because it's right now.
by implication, the entire thing is Christian. It's the whole point is to pray to Jesus Christ, which is exclusively Christian. I'm sure they'll be inclusive of anyone of other religions, so long as they agree to pray to Jesus.
Yeah, but they have those their 7 tenets of belief, and they're aligned with the American Family Association, and they're anti-gay. I'm just wondering, let's put a guy in a gay pride shirt, whether he's gay or not, doesn't even matter. Just see if he can walk through the door, and let's see how inclusive they are. Because I'd be willing to wager they bounce him out quicker than you could.
Well, I don't think they would. I mean, I guess it could go either way. If they don't bounce him out completely, they're going to encircle him, pray for him, and try to convert him of his evil ways.
They're gonna have an exorcism right then and there. They're gonna
awesome.
they're gonna
They
get
won't do it.
Jesus to scare the gay
I
right
want-
out.
They
of
won't
him.
do an exorcism because
An
that's not their belief.
I want to see an exorcism.
We're gonna get Bob Larson.
I've written him 2 emails and he's never responded. I'm gonna hound him again soon, I think.
I don't know. Anyway,
He's too big for us.
no, we're too big for him.
He's afraid of you.
Yeah.
That's a challenge to you, Bob Larson. If you ever listen, or if anybody listens knows Bob Larson,
wouldn't
send
be a
this
trip
to
if he actually listened to the show. He's like a faithful listener.
Bob Larson, intern who's listening to this show. We challenge you and
be
Bob
sit-
Larson.
Sitting at his desk right now. You motherfuckers! I swear to God, I'm gonna get you little bastards. And that's fine. I think that I think that this whole response thing is just a hair's breadth away from being, mob rule in a hate rally. I really do.
Well, I mean, you already have a hate group sponsoring it, the AFA, and the people that go to it are probably going to be, by and large, ignorant of the message of the AFA. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that they disagree with the AFA's message, and that sucks.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of people that go to this thing, and I'm sure they are good people with good intentions. But I would, again, we talk about things as a continuum,
Yeah.
and on that far right, where it's a hate group, I bet many of those people are going to fall to that far right-hand side along that continuum. The needle's going to point that way, and I just think that it's. And I think we could demonstrate that. I mean, it'll be obvious.
I would like to know if the attendees, because you bring up a point that they may be ignorant to the true message behind AFA, and I would like to know what they would say if we told them a quote from Brian Fisher, which is the AFA director of issue analysis for the government and public policy. He said, and I quote, "Homosexuality gave us Adolf Hitler, and homosexuals in the military gave us the brown shirts, the Nazi war machine, and 6 million dead Jews."
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. It's such a rewriting of history. Like, anyone who has ever studied history in any capacity, like anyone who's ever taken, I don't know, a 10th grade, I was going to say an undergraduate history course on the 20th century, anyone who's studied, like, 10th grade 20th century history
knows that the homosexual is destroyed. No, I'm just
garbage. It's crap.
I was never even a history major, and I didn't even like history when I was in school, but I just see so many instances of our political leaders and the public at large having a gross misunderstanding of history. That's like, where does they're interpreting it in a completely I don't want to say wrong direction, but it's a direction that's convenient for their ideology.
History is tough. Like,
let's talk about Sarah Palin a minute. That was so great. The video with her take on Paul Revere.
Yeah.
Like, isn't that exactly the wrong thing? Isn't it like, here he was shooting those guns and ringing those bells?
Yeah. No. It's so ridiculous because history is hard. It's a hard subject. Like, subjects are hard subjects. If you can study it in college, it's probably a hard subject. I've never been a huge history buff. My twin brothers are amazing at history. They have the brain for history. I'm good at aspects of history. I've never been. I actually failed history in 10th
Yeah, but
grade
I don't think it's a matter of being good at history. It's just you have the passion and the drive to put your nose to the grindstone and learn something about it. Crack a book.
Yeah,
and maybe retain that information. Don't just have a picture in your head because you watch daytime television or just something that conveniently fits with what you think happened. Take the time to read it and figure out the facts of the matter.
Well, and that's very important. I mean, because if you don't, you come up with quotes like I said from Brian Fisher from AFA, of where you have a rough idea of history. You understand that, okay, World War II happened. Nazi Germany happened. Oh, and I hate homosexuals, so they must be the reason that all of that crap happened.
Yeah. But this isn't the only thing that the far right does with Hitler. if you can ever associate anything with Hitler,
It's automatically
yeah,
that.
automatically.
Yeah.
And a big one with Hitler is actually, to switch gears for a second, is claiming that Hitler was an atheist.
Yeah.
Right. That's not true at all.
And he wasn't.
Roman
He was a
Catholic.
Roman Catholic. He was baptized, confirmed, and he was never excommunicated, and he never filed a formal defection from the Catholic Church, meaning he was a lifelong Catholic till the day he killed himself.
Yeah, that is a common argument that's thrown out in
In the Christian circles.
yeah, and part of the persecution of atheism is to say that Hitler was. That's not true at all. That's demonstrably false.
Absolutely false. And it's
But
it's
again,
very funny because
never let the facts get in
Yeah.
your way. Let's not do that.
reality has a well-known liberal bias.
Yeah.
And I think this is a really good point where we can switch subjects from the response. Our listeners are probably getting tired of hearing us harp on.
Yeah, but
Rick
it's
Perry.
just so good, though.
I know. We can
And
talk about it
I
for
think it's
hours.
important too. But it all, but really, it all kind of, it's all wrapped up in the same package.
Yeah.
It really is.
It really is.
It all comes back to Glenn Beck, right?
It always comes back to Glenn Beck. Fucking.
You
So we're
should
gonna
say
we're gonna
fuck.
we're gonna yeah we're gonna switch to something right now, which is the subject of my favorite faux historian, David Barton. If you don't know who David Barton is, he's a evangelical pastor who sort of moonlights as a fake historian. He likes to write books about history. He loves to replace facts about the secular creation of the United States with sort of the idea that all of the founding fathers were evangelical Christians. And he's not some nut job who no one listens to. Like, he has the ear of the mainstream right politics in America. Newt Gingrich has said that he learns something from David Barton every time he speaks. And you know what blows my mind on that? Newt Gingrich is a fucking historian.
Yeah.
He has a PhD in history, and he's listening to this fake historian speak. Michelle Bachmann, doesn't surprise me, said that he should teach Congress about the Constitution. Mike Huckabee insisted that everyone should be forced to listen to Barton speak at gunpoint. He said that he was joking afterward, but I don't know if he really was. And Sam Brownback, who at the time he was a senator, he's now, all ties together, governor of Kansas, who said he's attending the response, praised him for returning God to American politics. It's insane. He wrote recently, or he did a debate or something like that about how the founding fathers were opposed to Darwin. The founding fathers couldn't have been opposed to Darwin. Most of them were dead before Darwin was even born.
Yeah. It sounds like this guy is just
What?
making stuff up. I mean, like, you could.
Well, no, because technically, they were against Darwin.
They can't be against Darwin.
That's just like us being against anything that we don't know. We can't accept
It's a
it
null
because we don't
point.
know about it.
You can't. They may not have accepted it, but it's out
You
of
can't be
ignorance.
opposed to something that happens, years after you're gone.
Yeah.
You
And
don't,
what-
you don't know that
what
you
he
might be
does-
opposed it in heaven.
What he does is he conflates pre-Darwinian evolution and post-Darwinian evolution and makes them the same thing, but he's okay with blurring that line. Sure, the founding fathers allowed the teaching of creationism in schools, but that was because that was the accepted, thought process on where we all came from. That's all there was, essentially, in accepted history. Biblical history was history.
Yeah, so prior to Darwin, there was a the science was grappling with ideas of hereditary. The idea that things were passed on from generation to generation. we were playing with science was playing with those ideas. But at the time, it was kind of like it was thought to be a blending process. Like if you had a tall father and a short mother, you would have medium children. And we didn't really like science didn't really understand how that was happening, and that was the school of thought. And at the time, they did realize that changes occurred over time. What Darwin did was, it wasn't that he was revolutionary in his idea that change occurred over time. What made his idea revolutionary was the idea of what he called natural selection, and that took God out of the equation. That was his big contribution. That was why it was significant. Because with his idea of natural selection, there needed to be no guiding hand. He removed God from nature. And prior to that, everybody accepted that nature followed a path, and that path was dictated by a divine being. And Darwin took it out. And that was what Darwin did. And any confusion about like Darwin invented evolution or these ideas of evolution. Let's be clear about what Darwin said and what he didn't say. And the founding fathers, of course, they accepted that change occurred, and of course they thought it was by a divine being, because they were deists and they believed in a higher power. But if they had evidence to the contrary, they always followed the science, and the science didn't exist then. So that's a ridiculous argument. How could you say that they were opposed to something that hadn't even been introduced yet?
Yeah, it's exactly it. He says, as far as the founding fathers were concerned, they'd already had the entire debate over creation and evolution, and you get Thomas Paine, who is the least religious founding father, saying you've got to teach creation science in the classroom. The scientific method demands that. But, I mean, Paine died the same year Darwin was born. But
he was advocating for what he knew. There wasn't an alternative. And had he have known about the alternative, I think he would have supported that. Yeah. That would be a better interpretation of history than...
Well, we can't say that we know what he would pick, but what the facts are in front of us is that was their only choice, and he was going with what what he thought would progress education and human thought.
Right, but the point being, though, is the founding fathers, when they were given the pragmatic, the scientific solution, the secular solution, they always went that way. Yeah. Jefferson himself was all about the science.
Well, he was a scientist. He was an inventor. He was a statesman. I mean, he was a Renaissance man. He was a polymath.
Yeah, he was, I mean, so Jefferson was all about the Enlightenment. He was following the evidence wherever it may have led, only the evidence wasn't there yet.
Mm-hmm. Can't be opposed to something that doesn't exist.
Wow, that's just crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, atheists do that all the time. Oppose something that doesn't exist.
I'm not opposed to God. I simply don't believe in God.
I'm just being an ass.
I know. What's new? Oh, burn.
What?
I burned you.
Damn.
Yeah, it's funny because in the same interview, Barton explains that one of the main reasons that the colonies wanted to break away from England was because it would become easier to abolish slavery, which is such another rewrite of history. He likes to follow this idea of American exceptionalism that what Jesus wants is how the United States should follow its policy, and that sort of like divine hand on American politics is what led America to become a great nation.
I disagree with that assessment. I mean, I'm sure you do too, but I mean,
oh, of course,
that's just a Why would you look at the nuances of the situation when you can just assign it all to God. You know, that just seems like the easy cop-out answer for everything. I mean, you know, don't consider that it was a nation with vast resources, right? Let's not consider that.
Vast resources,
more space than we knew what to do with,
burgeoning economy, the Industrial Revolution. Yeah.
That's just crazy.
Had nothing to do with that. It's because God did it. That's the end of the story. It's what I like to call the God done it theory.
God done it. Yeah, let's not think about like all the people that work really hard to build railroads across the country this guy sucks.
A fairly, for its time, progressive political system, you know.
God done it.
God done it.
Checkmate, atheist.
So yeah, that's my bit on David Barton. Recently he did a debate. He was on the Daily Show, actually.
Who, Barton?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, he was on the Daily Show, and he went. And when you watch the interview on the show, it's 5 minutes. But if you go to the website, you can watch the extended clip, and it's like 40 minutes long of him and Jon Stewart going at it. And Jon Stewart doesn't pull out any notes until the end, and he gets him point for point.
I don't imagine it's hard. All you got to do is have the facts of the matter.
Yeah. But it's one of those things like David Barton's supposed to be a historian. Jon Stewart's a comedian.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. Isn't it a sad state of affairs when most of us get our news from the fake news show?
Yeah, exactly. I remember it was a number of years ago. It was maybe 6 or 7 years ago now. There was a poll that showed people who watch The Daily Show are often more involved in politics and more up to date on current events than people who watch CNN, Fox News, or MSNBC. And that is sad.
If it was Fox News, I could believe it. I'm a little surprised about CNN, but okay, sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, especially now. What does CNN do? They do, like, the tweet of the day and stuff like that. Like, twit pic of the day. Look at this cute dog. That's not fucking news.
Well, Anderson Cooper even did a whole segment on the bar/movie theater in Texas that somebody got kicked out for texting on their telephone. He did a whole segment on that. I'm like, why are you doing that?
I just think this is examples of willful ignorance. Like, why? It can only be that. It is willful ignorance. And why? Why is that? Why is it going that way?
It's easy. We don't have to worry about anything. We have everybody doing everything that we need to do for us.
Because God done it.
Well, no, not even that. I think it's just the basic. As a nation, has become. I mean, it's a very hardcore blanket statement, but we feel that the rest of the world, the rest of the country, or our fellow neighbor owes us something. We no longer have to work hard for our stuff. We don't even have to work. We can just get by with the bare minimum, and that's okay.
Yeah, but I think I see the allure of that position. Like, oh, it's just so much easier. But doesn't anybody ever stop? And when this guy talks and says something, doesn't anybody ever stop and go, really? Maybe that's not true. Maybe let's look into that.
He's on TV. He has to be right.
It's willful ignorance. Willful. That means I have woke up today and I decided I'm going to be dumb.
Well, it's not even that. People. Okay, let's take, for example, Fox News. No matter how, or Glenn Beck, no matter how bizarre and strange of the things that he predicts and says that are happening and the connections he make. When I was on the road traveling, I pretty much hit every city in this nation, and I would watch, because I watch Fox News because I enjoy watching it. It's entertaining to me. But the funny thing is, I would watch something on a program, wake up in a new state the next morning because that's our tour bus was taking us there, get out and do what I was doing that day, doing my outreach and everything, and I would hear the same arguments thrown at me that I heard on Fox News the previous night. And it's just, we've become a nation of regurgitation. We're no longer thinking critical. We're regurgitating what we hear on TV because it's easy, and we think that these people are experts, when all they were, especially like Glenn Beck, were comedians before they got a good deal to become on Fox News. And
yeah, but I just I think that I just have a problem with this with people just deciding to be stupid. I mean, I don't care who says anything. Whatever soundbite is out there, I don't care who it's from. Whether I agree with it or not, I entertain the possibility that it might not be true. Maybe I should look into it further. And then you do, and you either find out that it's right or it's wrong, or you agree with it, or it's a controversial standpoint, or it's a consensus standpoint. You find these things out.
yeah,
Why have we become so accepting?
because it's easy.
It's something I've learned, and I think it ties into the fact that in our culture, and it's not true for all cultures, not true for all people, but in our culture, by and large, people are okay with things that are hard if it doesn't take a lot of time. And they're okay with things that take a lot of time if it's easy. And researching facts and weighing opinions, politics, religion, these are things that it takes a very long time to find out what is and isn't true. And it's hard. It's, the time and difficulty together, most people are just not interested. It's easier to turn on the TV, get those 5-second sound bites. And I've done media before. I've written sound bites. They're 5-second clips that give you what you need to hear, and that's it. And that's, we live in a society that is absolutely media driven, and people, once they get those sound bites, that's good enough.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's just the way the media works. Okay, I get they're trying to put these sound bites out, but I accept in virtually all matters that things are generally more complicated than they appear. That's just the rule. Things are generally more complex than whatever surface sheen is put on them. And if you accept that things are more complex, then you should also accept that you should maybe dig a little deeper, because you just assume that it's more complicated than you anticipated. That should be the default, not I'm going to rely on a 5-second soundbite.
But I think we've gotten to the point where we believe that, especially if we watch it on the news, it doesn't matter if it's Fox News, CNN, NBC, we watch the news. I mean, if you're watching it for serious reasons, you're watching it because you agree with the people who are bringing you the news. You agree with the ideology, whether it's left, right, center, or whatever. And I think the reason we accept sound bites is because somewhere we believe that the people telling us this don't have the agendas, and they don't have things to push forward, but they've actually researched and done the facts. And maybe that's why Jon Stewart's so popular as a news show, I guess, is because they're offering entertaining news, but they're pushing their views, whether you agree with it or not. It's irrelevant, but people watch it because it's easier to be entertained and learn something by being entertained than it is. And if you watch Fox News because you love Glenn Beck or Bill O'Reilly, you're going to take if you like them and you agree with what he's saying, you're going to take everything that he says to be researched and at least 80% fact.
Bill O'Reilly's another person who's willfully ignorant.
Well, but he's
Tides
paid to
go
be
in,
will.
tides go out. Never a miscommunication. Yeah.
You can't explain that.
You can't explain that.
That's crazy.
Not for 400 years.
All right, so here's the thing. All right,
That was a funny clip.
it's just it would for me if there was some TV personality that I liked that, like, say it was Bill O'Reilly. Just say that I agree with generally what Bill O'Reilly had to say. I don't, but let's just suppose that I do.
He secretly does.
And I'm watching TV, and he makes a willfully ignorant statement like that. Done. Why follow someone who has demonstrated that they are willfully ignorant?
Because we're a forgiving nation. We're a forgiving people. We are taught to forgive people. If they make mistakes, they make mistakes.
But that should be your first clue to think, hey, maybe this guy's full of shit. Maybe I should look into things deeper on my own. Maybe I shouldn't take everything that they say at face value. And I maintain you shouldn't take anything at face value.
No, information.
Except the show.
always.
And I'll tell you, one of the really cool experiences is, like I said, science guy, I like Dawkins, man. I think Dawkins rocks. But a really fun exercise is to read the books written by Gould, who opposed what Dawkins had to say about evolution. And it's really interesting to read two brilliant people arguing about the finer points of a science. And I happen to follow, I fall into the camp of the way Dawkins believed in the, Gould espoused punctuated equilibrium, and Dawkins was more of a gradualist. And then it's a fine point. But just because I like Dawkins, just because I like what he has to say, I sought out the opposing view. I wanted to hear what the opposing view is, and it was enlightening.
No, absolutely. I agree with that wholeheartedly. Even in like you said, you're picking Gould and Dawkins. I read Ehrman and Price, and they don't agree with each other at all. I fall more into the camp of Ehrman than I do with Price, but I like to listen to what Robert Price has to say, just to get the opposite side of the historical argument for
right. And the reason it's
religion.
necessary to do that is because, as I said, it's generally more complicated than you thought.
Yeah, absolutely. And no single person is ever going to have all the facts, and you're never going to come to any hard and fast conclusion about anything. No one's going to be 100% right all the time. No one. Not me, not you, not Noam Chomsky with his 20 PhDs. No one. And it's important to have a bullshit detector equipped where you can listen to both sides of the argument without bias and take what you think sounds good and then listen to the other side and weigh the two opposing opinions.
I just can't understand the willful ignorance.
But I think there's something about our society. We don't equip people with the bullshit detectors that are necessary.
It's
the
not
way
that we
should.
don't. I think it's.
I think we as a society
it's,
don't.
I think far-fetched, but I think corporations condition us to.
I think
to
I
less
don't think
than
they
us.
condition us to. I think they definitely take advantage of the fact that we don't have it. Advertising wholeheartedly preys on the fact that majority of people have no critical faculties.
Yeah, I think it. I don't see it as a sinister corporate plot, but I believe that large corporations definitely take advantage of it. It's definitely. It may not be a situation they created, but it's a situation that they take advantage of.
Public
definitely-
schools no longer teach, logic and rhetoric
Yeah.
the way they did 150 years ago, and that's totally my fault.
And I mean, it's also being taken advantage of with the event with the response.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, but these people, I know, right? And these people are told, oh my gosh, we're gonna go go pray to Jesus to solve all our problems instead of spending those resources on hard work.
Well, praying for Jesus there's nothing wrong or bad or immoral about that. Praying for Jesus to solve economic woes, AIDS, whatever, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing unethical about that. There's nothing immoral about that. There's nothing... If you believe in that, if you wholeheartedly believe in it, then there's nothing wrong with it. And there's nothing wrong with having this event, the response. And we should embrace the fact that they're able to do that here in America.
All right, I'm opposed to the response on a couple of levels. The first level would be that it is a violation of the Establishment Clause, or at least I perceive it to be as such. And I think we can all agree that it at best it's blurring those lines.
Yeah, it definitely approaches the line.
And I'm opposed to it on a purely secular level because I think that it is a waste of resources, it is a waste of money, and a waste of political capital to hold such an event when those things could be better spent elsewhere more effectively.
That is true.
I think I totally agree with the first point. I partially agree with the second point. The second point, where you're talking about political capital, absolutely. Like, politicians should have no place in this. There should be zero...
There should be no political capital.
No political capital involved. People, however, have the right to do what they like with their money. And that's fine. If they want to spend their money praying to Jesus to solve the world's problems, fine. So be it. I think it's silly. I think it's wasteful. But it's their prerogative.
Yeah.
It is their prerogative, but they're being told to spend their money by their political leaders.
Exactly, and that's the problem with the Establishment Clause. The two parts where you have one problem, I think. Politicians should have no place in religion. And I was having this discussion earlier with colleague of mine who writes for Examiner as well. He's actually the National Atheism Examiner, and we shoot ideas off each other. Have a lot of respect for the man. Sometimes I think he doesn't think things through all the way, and he was arguing for the full, absolute taxation of churches, and I think, absolutely not, because
that's a. Sorry,
It's-
that was a knee-jerk reaction, but
yeah.
I'm starting to think like, no, you don't want them paying taxes because then they'll want federal benefits.
Exactly. They will have unrestricted access to lobbying, and it becomes a taxation without representation issue if you tax them but still don't want them to get into politics. You know, it begins to it chips away at that separation between church and state because then they have unrestricted access to the political arena. I think what we need, rather than taxation, is better enforcement of churches that do try to overstep that line.
Yeah.
But who's going to do that? I mean,
that's-
seriously,
the
what
IRS
politician is going to jump up and say,
Well,
we need to go after these churches?
it's the IRS's job, and the IRS does it from time to time. For example, branch ministries in the 1992 election cycle, the senior pastor there ran attack ads against presidential candidate Bill Clinton, and subsequently branch ministries took them 8 years to do it, lost their tax exempt status, which, I mean, for a church, oftentimes, that's an over and shut case. Like, they're done. If you're a small time church, you lose your tax exempt status, close your doors, you're done. But
that's
for the
one
for the
example.
big churches,
I mean, how are we going to go up against Governor Perry, the American Family Association, which is the largest of this type of group, that obviously they have books of how to infiltrate the political system. They put out books on that. No politician is going to greenlight the IRS to do that. I mean, in current times, maybe way in the future, but right now, I don't see that happening.
It happens from time to time, but it has to be something that's blatant, unfortunately. It has to be really, really blatant. And I think that's the thing. I think we need to, as constituents, we need to make it painfully clear to our elected officials that we can't put up with this.
Yeah. No, it's popular ideas don't need to be defended.
Yeah.
It's the unpopular things to do that are the hard things and the necessary things. And I think, right, somebody wants to. You gotta. I think it's again more complicated than it seems, but right, keeping the church and state separate, it protects us.
Yeah.
It protects that church, because what if that church falls out of favor with the state? The state has no business telling that church what to do or how to do it, and conversely, the church needs to stay out of the state business as well.
Yeah. That's build up that wall,
That wall is there for everyone's benefit, and I think that's the part that people don't understand.
I think we need to explain why it's a benefit. I mean, it's like that wall is there because our forefathers saw the tyranny in Europe, the way religious leaders, when they became into power, did horrible things and oppressed people. I mean,
yeah. I mean, you're talking about, centuries of bloodshed in Europe because of religion. One of my ancestors was a crusader who died in the Minor Crusade of 1101, and just going back, that's 1,000 years almost, and it goes back way further than that. They came over here and they started a new country, and they said, no, we need to put an end to this. Like, state religion is a problem. Like and especially they were coming from England, where the head of state is the head of the church.
Yeah.
And has been since the 16th century.
Yeah.
And you can't have that, because even in Henry VIII's time, they were, before he even established the Anglican Church, they were burning heretics alive. If you had translated the Bible into English, you were burned alive. If you were spreading like Reformationist propaganda, you were burned alive. And you can't do that. Like, if your church is out of favor with the state church, and that's what theocrats have. They have a state church. It would be one brand of Christianity, and all others would be heretics. And you could openly persecute any of the non-state churches. There are 38,000 denominations of Christianity alone. You would have one above the others, and then everyone else would suffer.
Because they're lesser. I mean,
Yeah, at the end of the day, Judaism, Islam, Christianity, I as an atheist, I think they're all silly, right? But you're free to have whatever belief you want as an American citizen, and I think I do believe that there's strength in diversity, and there's strength in diversity of opinion and diversity of thought, and I may not agree with what they have to say, but it's their right to have those beliefs, and I have to defend their right to have those beliefs. But as soon as you have a state-sponsored church, that's the end of diversity. You can't, what if the state-sponsored religion is Islam? Well, then if you're a Christian, you're fucked.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And what if it was Zoroastrianism, or what if it was Hinduism, or anything? You pick anything.
Right. The only people who support the state religion are the guys who think they're going to win.
Yeah.
It's great to be the state religion if you're the one that's in the favor of the state. When you're out of favor with the state religion, well, then it's a different story. And then you cry unfair.
And that's the point that Jefferson made in his letter to the Danbury Baptists, and the reason why there had to be a separation of church and state. And there has to be a separation of church and state. If you want people to, if people are going to have the diversity and the freedom to their own culture and the freedom to their own beliefs, then you need that separation, and it's vital.
And for the people who think that that are still supportive of a church state, and they say, well, it's not going to be bad even if it's all one religion. The popular religion right now is the one that's supported by the American Family Association, and they said just this year, when referring to Muslims, they need to either, I'm paraphrasing, but Muslims need to convert to Christianity or suffer lethal force. If in modern times, if today a religious believer is saying this, a religious leader is saying this, what do you think is going to be when they have ultimate power?
Right. That's why you cannot have the religious leaders cannot be the political leaders.
Yeah.
And it's getting fuzzy.
Well, these people here, they believe that homosexuality is an abomination. They're out of power, and they base that on Leviticus 18:22. But what happens if they gain power and then they decide to end women's suffrage because of 1 Timothy 2:11 through 15?
Well, you have to bring in women's suffrage. There are already, in the state of Texas, Governor Perry has passed laws trying to pass laws making it where homosexuals cannot hold public office, restricting basic human rights. The Supreme Court had to step in and overturn these laws that they're passing in Texas. And Governor Perry, and again, in association with the American Family Association, in association with the Response, is showing that these religious leaders in power will not be in the best interest of the people of the nation.
It's almost criminal.
It is
almost
criminal.
If the president of the United States said convert to Christianity or suffer lethal force, that would start wars across the world.
And that's why I'm saying this is the beginning of the Christian uprising.
The Christian apocalypse. No, it is almost criminal. No political leader should utter those words.
No. And they shouldn't. And that's why it's important for everybody to speak out about this. But anyway, that's why we need to go down there.
Yeah. So I think that's all we have for this hour. We could talk about this for days, I feel like.
Yeah. I could go.
But we're just starting to repeat ourselves and get into things that we can cover at a later date. So, once again, this is This Non-Religious Life. If you have any questions, comments, outbursts, you want to correct us on a point, you want to bring up something you think we should have covered more in depth, you can call us on the hotline at 757-337-2195. You can email us at nonreligious@zombie-popcorn.com. And you can always like us on Facebook, facebook.com/thisnonreligiouslife.
Do we have a link for the video for the rebuttal?
Yeah, it's indiegogo.com/the rebuttal.
Yeah, check out our video.
And check out the video. I think it's
don't just check out the video. When you go to indiegogo.com/the rebuttal, you'll see the video. Watch it. You'll enjoy it. And then on the right-hand side of that video, you can give us a donation. And this donation will help us get to Texas so we can cover both sides of the story of the response. You hear how passionately we are about this subject. We need to go down. We can sit here all day and talk about it. But it doesn't amount to anything unless we're in front, face-to-face, eye-to-eye, microphone, recording our conversations with the people who actually believe this, the people who are actually down there praying for it, so we can get deep into their thoughts and understand why they feel this is important and why they feel that the separation of church and state line should be blurred and why these politicians believe that homosexuals are less than human. We can talk about them, and we can also talk about the people who are protesting the event and get both sides, bringing it all together, and of course we'll give our own commentary to it. But please help us get to Texas. We are poor.
What's the donation that gets you the sandwich at Path?
It's $25. If you're a local, Hampton Roads, Virginia local, donation of $25 will get you one free meal at pathnorfolk.com. I mean, that's where we're at today.
That's
This
a
is where
pretty
we-
good deal.
That is a damn good deal. Their
Get it
food
now,
is amazing. It's
I think there's only
handmade.
74 left.
Yeah, I know. So head over there. You don't even have to. If like the lowest donation is $5. If you cannot afford $5, you can put $1. You can donate $1. If you can't even donate $1, please share this site so we can get more people to view
spread
it.
it around.
It's really important for us to get down there, and we can't do it without you. So again, that website is indiegogo.com/the rebuttal. Thank you. Is that it?
Just got out here.
I thought I was a good Christian.
Jesus died on a cross. I go to church every Sunday. Just got out here. Then I read that because Jesus died on a cross for a rotten hooker.
I thought I was a good Christian.
I go to church every Sunday.
I thought I was a good Christian.
I go to church every Sunday. I'm a very religious person.
I thought I was a good Christian.
The very lies the serpent told to Eve in the Garden of Eden. Garden of Eden. Garden of Eden. The gospel of Jesus Christ. Spread confusion and promote lies. The gospel of Jesus Christ. Spread confusion and promote lies. The gospel of Jesus Christ. Spread confusion and promote lies. The gospel of Jesus Christ. Spread confusion and promote lies. The gospel of Jesus Christ.